Ozzy Osbourne is dead at 76. But this isn't just the end of a man. It's the final bow of a movement, a myth, a menace. For over 5 decades, Ozzy didn't just push boundaries, he obliterated them. He terrified parents, scandalized the church, and somehow still ended up in millions of homes as America's most unlikely reality TV dad. He was the godfather of heavy metal, the prince of darkness, and the poster child for self-destruction who somehow kept surviving. Yes, he bit the head off a bat. Yes, he threw raw meat into crowds. Yes, he mumbled through the Osbournes like your weird uncle at Thanksgiving. But Ozzy Osbourne's story is deeper than the headlines. It's a tale of addiction, redemption, betrayal, love, and the slow, brutal toll of fame on a fragile body that carried the weight of legend. So before we reduce him to a meme or a punchline, let's rewind. Let's go back to a time before the arenas, before the chaos, before the crown. Back to the gray streets of Birmingham, where a troubled kid named John Michael Osbourne heard a Beatles song and decided to change the world. The birth of Ozzy. Before the stages, the scandals, and the screams, there was just John Michael Osbourne, a working-class kid from Birmingham, England, growing up in the soot and smog of post-war industry. Life wasn't easy. His father was a toolmaker. His mother worked in a factory. Money was tight. School didn't stick. And by 15, Ozzy was drifting, working odd jobs, barely scraping by, and eventually turning to burglary. At 17, he was arrested and thrown into jail. His dad refused to pay the fine. That 6-week sentence could have been the end of his story. But then came the Beatles. The moment he heard, "She loves you," something shifted. That sound, bright, electric, unstoppable, cracked something open in him. Ozzy didn't just want to escape his life. He wanted to transform it. He linked up with a few local musicians, including bassist Geezer Butler, guitarist Tony Iommi, and drummer Bill Ward. They called themselves Rare Breed at first, then Polka Tulk, then Earth, and finally, they landed on a name that changed everything: Black Sabbath. Inspired by horror films and dark cinema, they realized people were paying to be scared. Why not do the same with music? The Sabbath sound was born, loud, grimy, and menacing. Their debut album, recorded in just 12 hours, raw, fast, brutal, and instantly iconic. But the darkness wasn't just an aesthetic. It was creeping into Ozzy's real life. Ozzy's demons take over. As Black Sabbath exploded, so did Ozzy, in every direction. Fame hit hard, but so did the pressure, the expectations, and the escape routes he carved with drugs and alcohol. By the late 70s, Ozzy wasn't just dabbling. He was drowning. The wild persona on stage, the screaming, the staggering, the showmanship, wasn't an act anymore. It was survival, or maybe slow-motion self-destruction. The band tried to keep up, but the cracks were impossible to ignore. In 1979, after 8 albums and global stardom, Black Sabbath fired their frontman. Not for creative differences, not over contracts, but because Ozzy's addiction had become a storm too big to contain. Most careers would have ended there. Ozzy's was just getting started, with Sharon, the daughter of his former manager, stepping in as his new manager and soon-to-be wife. Ozzy launched a solo career that was louder, darker, and somehow even more unhinged than before. 11 solo albums, sold-out arenas, a bat-biting legend that would haunt him forever. But behind the chaos was something more unsettling. The addictions were still winning. And the man behind the makeup was unraveling. The bat, the blood, and the breakdown. It was 1982. Ozzy was mid-tour in Des Moines, Iowa, wild-eyed, wired, and already a living legend of madness. Then came the moment. A fan tossed a bat on stage. Ozzy, thinking it was rubber, sank his teeth into it. It wasn't rubber. That grotesque image would follow him forever. But it wasn't just shock value, it was a symbol. Ozzy had become the monster his critics feared, the chaos his fans couldn't look away from. Behind the scenes, things were worse. He wasn't just partying, he was spiraling. Powder up his nose, needles in his veins, and fits of rage that terrified even those closest to him. By his own admission, he was living like he didn't care if he died. His substance abuse had already cost him his place in Black Sabbath. He was fired in 1979 for being too out of control. even by rock and roll standards. But the real war was just beginning. That same year, he married Sharon Arden, the daughter of his former manager. She wasn't just his wife. She became his handler, protector, and strategist. But their love story, it wasn't some fairy tale. It was a battlefield, volatile, explosive, and somehow still unbreakable. Family feuds and million-dollar betrayals. If Ozzy's life was chaos, Sharon brought strategy. But not without setting off an explosion of her own. One that tore her family apart. Her father, Don Arden, was no small-time manager. He handled legends like Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis. And he was managing Ozzy too, until Sharon stepped in. When she and Ozzy married in 1982, Arden gave them a bizarre wedding gift, Ozzy's management contract. Sharon didn't hesitate. She ripped it up and moved Ozzy to CBS Records, a much bigger deal. That gift turned into war. Her own father sued her for millions, and he won. But the cost was much greater than money. Sharon and Don didn't speak for nearly 2 decades. It was betrayal, bloodline, and business all colliding at once. From then on, Sharon became Ozzy's manager. And she wasn't just good, she was ruthless. She negotiated, protected, and rebuilt his career from the ashes. In an industry ruled by men, she outplayed them all. Reality royalty, the Osbournes era. In 2002, Ozzy did something no one saw coming. He traded arenas for a living room, and the world couldn't look away. The Osbournes on MTV wasn't just a hit. It was a cultural earthquake. Ozzy, the Prince of Darkness, became the baffled, bleeped-out dad stumbling through domestic chaos. His mumbling, his dogs, his confusion with remotes, it was comedy gold. And strangely it worked. A whole new generation, Gen Z, met Ozzy not as a metal god, but as a messy, lovable, slightly lost patriarch. Kelly and Jack became household names. Sharon transitioned into a media powerhouse. The show even won an Emmy, making Ozzy not just a rock legend, but reality TV royalty. He didn't plan it. He barely understood it. But he became something totally unexpected. America's weirdest, most unforgettable dad. I should have died 1,000 times. Ozzy said it himself. I should have died 1,000 times. And it wasn't an exaggeration. Decades of addiction, wild outbursts, and near-death moments piled up like beer cans backstage. Sharon didn't just manage his career. She braved the chaos at home. There were nights when she genuinely feared for her life. The madness took a toll. Over the years, Ozzy's health crumbled. Pneumonia, brutal falls, multiple surgeries, one of which left him nearly crippled. Then came the diagnosis, Parkinson's disease. But even then, Ozzy's fire didn't die. In a 2023 interview, he said, "If I can't continue doing shows on a regular basis, I just want to be well enough to do one show. And if I drop down dead at the end of it, I'll die a happy man." The final curtain call, one last Sabbath show. It was called Back to the Beginning, a homecoming concert in Birmingham. The place where it all started. For the first time in 2 decades, Black Sabbath took the stage in full force. Ozzy, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward, and Tony Iommi, the godfathers of heavy metal, reunited for one last thunderous roar. It was emotional, raw, powerful, and it was billed as Ozzy's final bow. What no one knew was how final it truly was. Just weeks later, the Prince of Darkness would be gone. The legacy of the Prince of Darkness. Ozzy Osbourne's name is etched in rock history, not just for his wild antics, but for the music that changed everything. He won multiple Grammys, both as a solo artist and with Black Sabbath. His influence spans generations. In 2006, Ozzy and his bandmates were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, cementing their place among the legends. After his passing, tributes poured in from Geezer Butler, Tony Iommi, and Bill Ward, longtime friends who called themselves 4 Kids from Aston, now immortalized in music history. Ozzy outlived the chaos, the rumors, and the hate. He showed the world what survival really means, battling demons, embracing flaws, and still leaving a legacy no one can forget. Immortal, not invincible. Ozzy's body finally gave out, but his image will never fade. He wasn't just metal. He was myth. A wild, fragile force who terrified and inspired millions. He didn't just scream into the void, He made the void scream back. Now it's your turn. What's your wildest Ozzy memory? Drop it in the comments below. And don't forget to salute the Prince of Darkness. Thanks for watching Celebrush. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and leave a like. Until the next one.